So in the psalm today, we heard the response, "The Lord has revealed to the nations his saving power." And the question is how many nations are listening to the Lord's clear revelation and living by the Lord's revelation? I want to comment today on the issue of governments trying to introduce same or so-called same-sex marriage into our cultures. And what I want to do is I want to look at the church's teaching on homosexuality and try to help understand the church's reasoning. So many people have misunderstood the church's teaching on homosexuality. And I guess the way I want to approach it is by looking at kind of it's a kind of a parallel, not a perfect parallel, but a parallel we can look at of an eating disorder. How many of you have heard of bulimia? Bulimia is an eating disorder. I looked it up on good old Wikipedia. An eating disorder characterized by binge eating, followed by an attempt to rid oneself of the food consumed, called purging, typically by vomiting. So someone wants to stay really skinny but wants to enjoy the pleasure of eating, and so they eat a ton of food and then they vomit it so as not to put on weight. And we know, of course, that food is good. Food is good and it's necessary. It serves a purpose. The purpose of food is to nourish the body. And eating, of course, is also a source of pleasure. So the use of food in a way that completely excludes it from what it is ordered towards, we say, is an abuse of food. Now, we're not saying that bulimics are bad people, but we are saying that what they are doing is bad. What they are doing is bad for their bodies, for their health, for their personal wholeness. You know, as Catholics, we say that every person is ordered towards perfection and should thrive or strive for the good. And anything that kind of derails us from that is wrong. And so we call bulimia an eating disorder. Now we can look at the gift of our sexuality. The gift of our sexuality is indeed good. And our sexuality is ordered towards procreation. This isn't rocket science. A man and a woman. The man has the seed. The woman has the egg. They complement each other. In a sense, the man is incomplete without the woman. The man and the woman, they complement each other, and sexuality has a purpose, an end. It is ordered towards something, procreation. And, of course, the sexuality is also a source of pleasure. That's a good thing because procreation is a very necessary and important thing. And so our bodies, they're designed that way. And again, to use our sexuality in a way that is not consistent towards what it is ordered towards is an abuse of our sexuality. Homosexuality is a disordered use of the gift of sexuality. Sexuality is not ordered towards those actions. Now again, we're not saying that homosexuals are bad people. And as a matter of fact, in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the Church is clear on this. In paragraph 2358, it says, "The number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. This inclination, which is objectively disordered, constitutes for most of them a trial. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided." So again, the church is not teaching anyone to hate people who struggle with a homosexual tendency, but the church does highlight that this is not what our sexuality is ordered towards us. It does not lead to our fullness and to our integration. Again, in the Catechism, it says, tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. Throughout all ages, the general consensus is, this is not right. It goes on to say, they are contrary to the natural law. They close the sexual act to the gift of life. They do not proceed from a genuine, affective, and sexual complementarity. Again, pointing to this complementarity. Men complement women, not just in their bodies, but even in their effectiveness towards each other. You know, what is it? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus or whatever. So the point is that we are not helping society by pretending that a disordered lifestyle is healthy or acceptable. We are not helping people towards wholeness and integration and perfection. Again, just as homosexuality is a disintegration of sexuality, the acceptance of homosexuality by a culture will lead a culture into disintegration. Do you want to see a culture become disintegrated? Start saying that things that are disordered are not disordered, but are okay. Again, you don't love someone by encouraging them in a lifestyle that is not good for them. And this is where there's so much confusion today. You know, I'm embarrassed to have to talk about this. This is not like, you know, when I think about what I would like to preach about, this is very, very, very low on my list of things I like to preach about. But someone has to say something. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion everywhere, including even in our high schools, unfortunately, even sometimes in our Catholic high schools. So again, what I'm saying, this should be seen by us simply as common sense. What I am saying is common sense, but like Chesterton, I think it was, said, unfortunately, common sense isn't always that common. You know, when you have our own president, hello? Now again, those who are trying to promote same-sex marriage typically appeal to emotion. It's about all they have to appeal to. They appeal to emotion. I knew a guy and he was sad and then he got together with this other guy and he was happy and I'm so happy for him. Now emotion is good, but emotion should never replace common sense and truth. Do you want this country to be based on truth and common sense or based on passing emotion? Again, for our leaders to appeal to emotion by putting aside common sense, that's real dangerous. It's dangerous for our culture. We're heading in a nosedive if we agree to go in this direction. The reality is that all of us, we all struggle and we're all called to virtue. Again, in paragraph 2359, homosexual persons are called to chastity, just like everyone else according to their state in life, by the virtues of self-mastery that teach them inner freedom, at times by support of disinterested friendship, by prayer and sacramental grace. They can and should gradually and resolutely approach Christian perfection. If someone struggles with something, whether it be bulimia, homosexuality, or whatever else, they're called to self-mastery, to virtue, to growing in freedom in Christ. Now, unfortunately, this is a value that has been lost so many times in our culture. Instead, we want comfort, ease, pleasure, self-gratification. These have become our highest values. Am I being gratified right now according to my latest passion? That's what's important. If we base our society on these kind of values, we're done for. Every man and woman is called to battle for virtue, to battle for freedom, to grow. to grow interiorly. And again, a culture that puts this aside in the place of ease, pleasure, and gratification is in a serious nosedive. And we've seen this before in history. And so, my brothers and sisters, we need to pray. We need to pray that the leadership of our country doesn't put aside common sense in place of emotion. There's a lot of good people in this country. They need to stand up for what is right and true. We have an enemy in this country within. And if this enemy is not defeated, again, the disintegration of our culture will just continue as it's going.